Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 425. Meeple Nation June 2022 news.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Beautify your game space, upgrade your game night, upgrade every game that you own with a beautiful game topper from GameToppersLLC.com. They just finished their Kickstarter 3.5, which now introduced the Mycroft leg kit, which I'm super excited about.
And you can use the expansion leaf on that. Or
yes.
What are they? It's not an expansion leaf.
There's legs for the extension leaves for your
extra long leaf.
For your extra long Watsons and your extra long Holmes tables. Now you can have the leg kit for them. So they've done a great job developing this, and they're super sturdy, high quality. And of course, the mats are beautiful. We've talked about the mats. We talk about them every week, how wonderful they are and how gorgeous they are. Game Toppers LLC, they sell just amazing stuff. What's better than having a Mycroft in your game room?
Having 2 Watsons.
Having 3 Mycrofts. Check them out, GameToppersLLC.com.
We are your hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Andy Holiday.
And I'm Dave Holiday.
Check out our webpage, meeplenation.com. See our blogs. See our Instagram photos, links to every episode that we've ever released, links to our bios for our bloggers as well. So if you want to get further information on Kit or Doug or Nathan Tinney, check them out. You can also email us with any questions, any comments. Let us know if you have any concerns on your side. We'd love to get feedback. There's corrections that we need to make. Feel free to email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. If you love the podcast, we'd love to get your support on Patreon. Patreon allows us to fund the podcast. Patreon is a great way for you to support the podcast, help us continue to put out great content. Hopefully it's great. We'd love to welcome Doug Stewart as our latest patron.
Thanks, Doug. You are awesome.
Yes, thank you. This week, we are talking about June news. As always, we like to talk about some gaming highlights from the last month.
We finally were able to break out my favorite game again. It's been a while. Over a year since we played.
Has it really been that long?
It's been about a year and a half.
Holy cow.
And that's Descent 2nd Edition. When Descent Legends of the Dark came out, we played that, and Descent 2nd Edition kind of got put on the shelf. Honestly, before we started playing Descent Legends of the Dark, we were playing Gloomhaven, so it kind of got pushed back before Legends of the Dark came out. But we were actually able to get Descent 2nd Edition to the table last week. My gosh, I love that game.
It is fantastic. Doug actually played with us. It's his second time playing with us.
Yeah.
The same thing. He was just so excited to be playing the game. In the middle of the game, he was just as excited, and when we were done, he was just as excited. And that's one of the things that's great about that game is you're engaged. It's a great game, and you just enjoy it, and you always end up having a great time.
We also were able to get Shadows of Brimstone to the table a couple of times over the last month. I know Doug actually played that with us too, and he didn't seem to have quite as much fun with Shadows of Brimstone than he did Descent, but I know Nathan will love to hear this, but we may implement a house rule to balance that game out a little bit.
For Shadows?
For Shadows.
Yeah, Shadows, I know a couple of people have had the same complaint about Shadows. It's a great game, and there's a lot of things that I love about the game, but I see a major flaw in it, and that's what Andy's talking about, that we may end up instituting a house rule. And the flaw is that every round, monsters spawn at the beginning of the round, and then it starts with whoever has the highest initiative. Whoever has the lowest initiative always ends up going last, and monsters are all dead.
Yeah, and the initiative is static in that game. We want to implement where you just roll d6 and add whatever your initiative is to it. So there's at least a chance for guys with lower initiative to actually be able to get in combat. When you get into the higher levels, like Dave said, some of the stuff was just, especially in a higher player count game, everything was getting killed super fast. And there was nothing left for the guys that were later in initiative order to do.
When we played this at BGG-Con last November, I felt that. Because I was usually the lower initiative. When it was my turn, there wasn't really anything that I was doing. We talked about my character. At the end of the combat, he could get 2 loot cards instead of 1. Which was awesome, allowed my Bandito to get some cool stuff. But still, even when I had that cool stuff, if by the time it was my turn, everything was dead, it was really just a spectator game.
And the primary way to get experience in Shadows of Brimstone is hitting monsters and killing monsters. And it's not shared experience. Each individual character is going to be gaining experience based on what they do on their turn. The only other real way to get experience is, you do get experience by gaining loot cards. Healing will give you experience. For each point you heal, you get 5 experience for your character. And scavenging, and that's really...
successfully casting spells.
About it, right.
It's just not as... It's more minimal, I guess.
And a lot of the spells are pretty hard to cast. To get a successful spell cast is not the easiest thing in the world. We're thinking, at least we want to try it and implement just a roll and add your initiative bonus. And hopefully that will mitigate that issue a little bit and get people that have that lower initiative number a little more engaged in combat and in the game. Maybe alleviate some of the frustration that was at the table.
We'll have to see how that works. I'm interested to see your feel, because I'm, like you mentioned, or like you alluded to, house rules are really not something that I'm super keen on, because often house rules are dumb.
Right.
That's something that addresses a relevant issue, and one that I felt personally, and so I'm interested to see how that pans out. Have you looked on BGG to see if there's any alternate...
We haven't. That's a good point. Maybe there's something out there that they've come out with to try to mitigate that. Or maybe we just need to increase the level of the monsters and fight a little bit tougher monsters so they stick around a little longer. But they hit so hard.
I was going to say, I don't know that would do it, but never know. While we're on this, if you have played and love Shadows of Brimstone and you've had this same issue and you've had a good solution to it, why don't you let us know? We'd love any good ideas about it.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be great. Pass along any advice you have for us. I also got to play for the first time, and I've actually played this game twice now, is Wasteland Delivery Service. I have had so much fun with this game. It is great. I love the theme. I actually played it for the first time with my wife. She complained that I always play a game first, and she thought I was trying to play the game first so I could beat her. Instead of trying to learn the rules, so we weren't tripping through the rules whenever we'd play. I wanted to make sure I could teach it, and so I'm like, okay, well, let's go learn this game together. I haven't read the rules yet, so let's go grind through it. And oh my goodness, it was so fun. The theme, I really got into the theme. You're upgrading your truck. You're trying to deliver goods, whether it's weapons or food or water, to the different settlements throughout the wasteland. And you're fighting raiders. You can go in and raid the raider encampments. Oh my gosh, it's such a good game. I started playing it with my mom, actually, last week. We didn't have enough time to finish it. But she was having fun with it. When we didn't finish, she's like, okay, we got to play this again next week. We got to start it. And now that I know how to play. Very immersive. I loved it. The theme was great.
The real question, Andy, is since you read the rules together this time, did Sabrina finally win?
No.
Oh, okay.
She was ahead of me for a while. The way you win is you have to complete 3 missions that are first-class missions, a little more difficult missions to complete. She completed her first one before I had completed any. But then I completed the other 3 fairly quickly and close together. I was kind of going for a long game. I was upgrading my truck, getting gunners on my truck to be able to attack the raiders, because that's one of the easiest ways to get resources. Resources are hard to come by. There's settlements throughout the entire wasteland that are needing stuff, and a lot of your cards that you're getting, so you have private contracts that you're trying to complete, and then there's public ones as well. You just kind of pick and choose what you want to go for. The implementation of it was spot on. It was great.
My wife would not have the patience to sit and learn a game together. That's pretty cool that Sabrina would do that.
Well, I always assumed that she didn't want to. I would always make sure I read the rules first, and a lot of times when I'm trying to learn a game, I do a solo playthrough. Not the whole game, but just to kind of get how it plays and make sure I have the rules down so I can teach it. I thought it was hilarious that she was accusing me of making sure I played it ahead of time, so I had an advantage.
My wife's very competitive. When we were first married, we had Nintendo 64 and Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
And many a fight it was the GameCube. Sorry, it was the GameCube and Mario Kart. And many a fight was spurned off of Mario Kart because my wife was so competitive. It's kind of funny because she still is. But when we're playing a game, she always has a strong desire to win, which we all do, right? Everybody wants to win. She's a lot better now, but Mario Kart, many a fight.
So did you just decide to not play Mario Kart anymore? Or is that kind of how it...
Eventually we just stopped playing the Mario Kart. I think she got turned on to the Zelda games. She played Zelda and I watched. When we were first married, I was really big into video games. And now I just have no real desire to play video games. I was really big into World of Warcraft back in the day. I think about it every once in a while, like, I should go back to that.
That consumes so much time.
Well, that's kind of why, there was a couple reasons I stopped. But I looked at the actual play time on one of my characters once, which was a mistake. For that specific character, and I had several characters, but for that specific character, I had sat at the computer for 1 year and 3 months playing that one character.
Oh my gosh.
So that's combined time, right? So it is an actual year and 3 months of my life were spent in front of the computer with this character alone. And so I was like, wow, you know what? I mean, I was involved with other people, right? I had coworkers that we were doing stuff together. It wasn't just a non-social thing, but I very much prefer my social interaction face-to-face with people. So board games trumped World of Warcraft. That, and when I finally quit it, I was taking 20 credits my final semester of college. I was working one job that was eating 60 hours a week and another job that was eating 20 hours a week, and something just had to go. And so World of Warcraft went. You know, my Xbox is tons of dust on it. Board games are better.
Board games are better.
It's true.
So those are my highlights. I had a great month. It was amazing.
So I moved.
Yes, you did.
And
You
Moved 2 whole households.
yeah, my mom had a stroke, so we decided, my wife and I guess maybe more me than my wife, she reluctantly agreed, but we sold my mom's house, we sold our house, and we bought a house together so that we're here to take care of my mom. Wow. Moving 2 houses, combining 2 houses is insane. It's not a fun game. There's no winners.
Yeah, moving one house is terrible. Moving 2 houses into one house,
Right.
that is craziness.
I've had a huge support group, which has been amazing. Particularly Andy and Dave, you both have come over several times throughout. I borrowed a neighbor's trailer. I've had it for 3 weeks. At some point, I got to give his trailer back. Tools I've borrowed, hand trucks I've borrowed. This has just been a huge endeavor. I don't recommend it to anybody, but in the end, it's going to be awesome.
And welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah, as a side note, I am a lot closer to both Andy and Dave. Logan's still back by the old hood, and he's working tonight. I guess we didn't point out that
It's
he's
just
not
become
here.
such a regular thing.
Yeah, I know. He's been working nights so much that when we record, we have his chair sitting there and just no Logan. No, that's probably my biggest highlight of May/June has been moving. I got a blog that's going to be coming out talking about moving your games. Somebody's got way too many games. And I'm not going to point any fingers because there's no mirrors in here. When somebody has almost 1,000 games, so we have this nice bonus room that's above the garage, and it's a nice long room. When I looked at it originally, I thought this is going to be great. I have tons of room. Thought I was going to have more room than the old place. I actually think overall I do. The shape of this room, where it's just long and narrow.
And your ceilings aren't as tall. Be able to put the tall racks in like you had in the old HQ.
But this is nice. The lights are nice. It's a very bright room, which I'm very glad for. I think it's going to be a good move. But once we get settled in, once we get everything situated, organized, decide whose stuff we're going to keep, whose stuff we're going to not keep, can no longer live in boxes, that will be great.
If you ever figure out how that works, let me know. We've moved a couple of years ago, and we're still there.
Well, so you guys are going to stop coming over, because anytime you come over, I'm like, hey, can you help me move this? And Andy was super nice over up by the old house, and he's just like, hey, can I pick up some stuff at the old house and bring it over? And I'm like, I can't meet you there. And he's like, no, I'm just here. Let me pick it up. And that was huge.
Well, I didn't have a trailer, just a truck, but already spinning the gas. Might as well pick some stuff up on the way.
Yeah, but moving is not a game I would recommend. However, I have had some highlights that I have played recently that I am been able to sneak in. One I've actually been playing more online than in person, Iwari, which is a re-implementation of Web of Power. We played that at BGG-Con. It's almost identical gameplay. The pieces look a little bit nicer.
I'm sure they have an updated board, too.
And the rules are a lot more
good.
pleasant to read. I've been playing the heck out of that game. I think we've played it like 12 times now. I did get a chance to play Meeples and Monsters, which was pretty fun. We played that, and we'll be talking more about that in a couple weeks. Got to play a new game called Veiled Fate. We played with Andy and Sabrina and Corey. Veiled Fate, it's not necessarily a hidden role game. Everybody's manipulating pieces that are on the board, trying to advance pieces backwards as well as move pieces forward. And then at the end of the game, you reveal which god, Greek gods.
And we also played with Richie.
Oh, yeah, Richie
he ended up winning that game. It was close between he and I. And it's interesting because it's kind of there's a lot of bluffing that goes on in that game, too. You don't want to be too obvious of which of the demigods is yours. That's secret information. So you want to kind of throw people off a little bit, will potentially help you go up the track. I picked red, which I didn't know Richie's was the red demigod. So the red was my decoy, and I was helping Richie along, and he ended up beating me. It was an interesting game. It was not my favorite, but it was fun. I had a good time. I wouldn't go pick it up to purchase right away just because it's not my style of game that I typically enjoy. But I can definitely see there would be a niche if someone enjoys that style of game that they would probably really like it.
If not my favorite hidden role game, probably why I picked it up, because it was a hidden role game. I enjoyed it, and I like the fact that I think it goes up to 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
Be able to get something like that to the table, and it's not a party game, it's not a word game. It was nice to have that player count and be able to have kind of a deeper game.
Turns went quick, which was nice.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the complaints we've had with a lot of the higher player count games, especially recently, is they just take so dang long to get through. The turns last forever. It takes forever for it to get back to your turn. And that game, to its credit, it did not have that. The turns were quick, played fast. As far as that goes, it was well done.
Yeah, I agree. So speaking of games you didn't like, we also got the chance to play Letters from Whitechapel. Andy really didn't like this game.
I think I enjoy chase games more when I'm the one being chased. Discussed this with Julia a little bit last month when we were recording with the Hug Ladies. In those games, she likes to be the ones that on the team where you're the hunters trying to collaborate and everything. I'm the complete opposite. I like being chased and having a little more control and find that more fun. I find the one that's doing the chasing and the hunting just frustrating.
Find that the same thing with Fury of Dracula, Spectre Ops. I actually really enjoy those games, but it's when I'm the one player, the one versus many. The whole I'm trying to evade, hide and seek, trying to do everything I can, which is probably the reason I lose every time I play Fury of Dracula. Instead of trying to score points, trying to just make sure that no one finds me. Probably not the best way to play the game, since every time I've done that, I've lost. Letters of Whitechapel was interesting. It's a story about Jack the Ripper. Your detective's trying to find him, and then you have a map of London, a certain number of rounds before Jack gets away, and then you have to wait till another murder happens, and then you're trying to use that information to track him down, track where his hideout is. There'll be a total of 6 murders. If Jack gets away with all 6 murders, then Jack wins. The detectives have to try to track him down before that. We successfully found Corey.
We did.
I was kind of surprised. Every time we got away, we knew where his hideout was about, but there was a lot of avenues and paths that he could take to get there.
Why do I feel like we lost that game? I just have that feeling like we lost.
Is it because it's one of those games that you lost because you played?
It might be.
No, we definitely won.
Okay, good. Yay! Yay, go us!
Yeah. It was not a highlight for you, for sure.
That may have been because I checked out by the end of the game.
As soon as the game was over, it was like, poof, there was a cloud of smoke and Andy was gone.
It's one of those times where that rule about I can't quit in the middle of a game, can't leave in the middle of a game.
There are very, very few exceptions to that, but yes. Especially if I'm planning on playing multiple games that night. And if it's a game that I know I'm going to be so irritable that the game is just irking me off, I'm better off not playing. I'm going to quit. You guys play without me because I'm going to be miserable to be around the rest of the night if I continue this game. That's only happened once, and it was one of Logan's purchases. It was basically Phase 10, Cthulhu Phase 10.
That's right, I remember that.
And that game was just irritating the heck out of me. It's not going to affect anybody by me not playing, but it will affect people if I continue to play. So I'm going to stop.
Just this last Thursday, we got a chance to play Great Western Trail 2nd Edition. And how do you feel that compared to the original version?
It was very close. One thing that I didn't like, when you choose to sell your cattle at Kansas City, in the 1st edition, you would get $6 placing your token in Kansas City. They reduced that to 4. That's rough. Still losing the 6 points. They didn't reduce the points you lose, but they reduced the amount of money you get. I didn't like that as much. I thought the components were great. As far as
I
gameplay,
love the little meeples. You put the hats on the meeples.
Yeah.
That's kind of a nice touch.
Little cowboy hats. That was kind of cool. I agree with James when he mentioned that he liked your homemade ones that came in your game. And I agree, those are just cooler looking just because they're actual cowboys. But the components with the meeples with cowboy hats, it was nice. You had the expansion with the cows that you can upgrade when you sell them, which
that
is
was a
pretty
nice
cool.
touch. Yeah, I liked that.
It held up nicely to the original version.
Yeah, I was really surprised that I won that game.
It was definitely between you and Corey because I was not in the running at all. I was doing terrible.
You were collecting cows like they were going out of style, and you had a ton of cows in your hand. And I had a very lean deck, but I was able to get to San Francisco twice.
Plus, you had 2 bonus cards for that.
Plus 2 bonus cards. It gave me 5 points each for that. Corey was going around the rail track. He was stopping at every station. I thought for sure he was just running away with the game. Overall, the changes were minimal. Those changes affected some of the objectives. Overall, I like both games. 2nd edition is the first of the Great Western Trail trilogy. There's an Argentina and an Australia one, I believe, that will be coming out. I'm interested to check those out. Hopefully they're not just the same game, right, with a pasted theme.
I hope not. I will say this. I liked the artwork better on the 2nd edition, with the exception of the roads. The roads were
were hard to see.
They were hard to follow, to know which paths you were supposed to take. I think if they would have done the roads a darker color, a little more obvious, that would have been nice. But that's such a minor complaint.
Especially with the light glaring down on the side. I was kind of at an angle. I had a very tough time staying in my chair to look at my turns. I had to stand up so that I could look down. That could just be a lighting problem here. Very much enjoyed the game. Highlights for me, pretty minimal. Yeah. Unless you count my backache.
I just really had a couple of things. I'm excited about the new Meeple Nation HQ. I think it's cool. I think it looks great. It's a little bit crowded, as you pointed out, but I'm excited about the new HQ here. May was, my wife and I celebrated our 23rd anniversary. That's one of my highlights, not necessarily a gaming highlight, but played Ark Nova a couple of times, and I'm really liking that game a lot. We also got to play a bunch of games online that I've been having fun with. We just finished another game of Tapestry.
I hate that game, I've decided.
I know, I'm a little bit bummed because you keep saying that, which means you're probably not going to invite me to play it online anymore.
And by Tapestry, Dave means tapestry.
And that's, no, I will not ever invite you to a game. If you invite me to a game, I will accept, but I will not be the one instigating rematch on that game.
I enjoy that game. I actually think they did a great job online with it. I've been really enjoying Great Western Trail online, except for it's a little different than the Great Western Trail that I know. The buildings are all different. Is it the 2nd edition? Is that
It's the 2nd edition, yeah. The buildings are a little bit different, and I can't remember if we're playing with A-side or B-side buildings. The original edition, we've only played with the A-side buildings, and so the B-side buildings are a little bit different.
Space Base Online. At first, I was not excited about it because it makes you, even when you have nothing to collect on somebody else's turn, it makes you click to say, confirm, I don't get anything. But I found there's a little button that you can push that says, don't ask me, just skip it. And that's made it a lot better.
I like that too, and I like it that you could also select to just choose the better option.
Right.
So if you roll multiple numbers, the computer's going to decide what is best for you. Chose not to do that because I want to know what's best for me.
Right. I have been playing A Feast for Odin online, and I'm really enjoying that game. It's only my second play. I don't know that I'll ever be good at that game, and I think I said that before on here, but I really enjoy it. So far, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's one I want to play in person first before I start playing it online.
Me too.
There's a lot going on, a lot of actions that you can select on that game. That's one that I think needs to be played in person to get a full understanding. And I think that's true with a lot of, well, it's not true with every game online, but I find that I enjoy and can play a game better online if I've played it in person first. I mean, I've learned a couple of games like PI. PI was a game that I only played online. The game was out of print, and then I found a copy on BGG, picked up a copy there. For the most part, I'm all about playing a game first before I play it online.
I'm all about playing a game in person, period.
So those are my highlights. What are some new games you guys are excited about?
Before we get into that, I have one more highlight I forgot about.
Oh,
This is my 100th episode with Meeple Nation.
that's right.
So it's been awesome.
For the longest time, that was the only highlight that was listed, and it's funny that we almost forgot that.
It's been great. It's been fun. It's almost been 2 years that I've been recording with you guys, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a fun time.
You're absolutely right. It has been great. We love that your enthusiasm for the games. We love your collection of games, and the surprising fact that not a ton of our games overlap.
That is very surprising.
Because you have 700 plus games. I have almost 1,000 games. And to have that many games, I bet there's maybe 75 games that overlap is all.
That's probably true. That's probably really close. That in and of itself is miraculous. It really is. That's amazing that there's such a small overlap.
To say we have access to 1,600 different board games that we can talk about. It's kind of funny when we broach a subject that we're like, oh, we only have like 6 games that coincide with this mechanic or this theme. So it's kind of funny when we run into those rarities with having 1,600 games at our disposal.
Well, the other problem is playing those games.
Absolutely. Need more game night. I guess going back now that we're talking about updating our highlights, I did get a chance to play Ark Nova with Sam Aho from Sam Says Reviews. Sam's a great guy. He was just getting ready to go see Doctor Strange. Stopped over right before Corey and I whooped us in Ark Nova before his movie, and then had to run off. Didn't help clean up, which is not his style. He had a movie to go see.
Cleaning up is not his style?
No, not.
I know, I'm joking.
Yeah. Not helping cleaning up is not his style. I think I'm still saying that wrong. He wanted to stay and clean up. He usually does.
Okay, so those are our game highlights, Dave. Sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. Tell us about some of the new games you are excited about.
A game that is finally out in the U.S. markets is one that we played, one that I played, BGG Con, with Brent Mayer, one of our original Meeple Nation folks, and that was Freedom Freeze's Free Ride. I always enjoy train games, not the big, Andy, I know you love Empire Builder, which is an epic crayon drawing route building game. One that your wife will play with you, but Free Ride, I compare it to Transamerica, except for fun. I mean, not that Transamerica isn't fun. Transamerica has its place, one that I can get my mom to play. Free Ride, kind of a similar build routes and use other people's routes as they come up. It's a 1 to 5 player game, 50 to 90 minutes. I really enjoyed it, and I got a nice copy that's still in shrink. I need to unshrink that and get you guys to play. But that's Free Ride. I highly recommend picking that up.
A game that's releasing called Imperium Classics. 1 to 4 player game. It's best 1 to 2 players. Designer is Nigel Buckle and David Turksey. The publisher is Osprey Games. Formidable adversaries are arrayed against you. Your people stand ready. History beckons. In your hands lies the destiny of one of history's great civilizations. Under constant threat of attack, you must conquer new lands, oversee dramatic scientific cultural advances, and lead your people into an era of empire. Expand too rapidly, and unrest will bring your civilization to its knees. Build up too slowly, however, and you might find yourself a mere footnote of history. As one of 8 radically asymmetric civilizations, you will compete to become the most dominant empire the world has ever seen. Imperium Classic contains Carthaginian, Celt, Greek, Macedonian, Persian, Roman, Scythian, and Viking civilizations. It is also fully compatible with Imperium Legends for the players who want to expand their pool of civilizations that already own Imperium Legends. Sounds really cool. A strategy game, falls under the categories card and civilization game, has deck building, bag building, pool building mechanisms in it, hand management, markets. Sounds like a really solid game. I love games like this that have civilization building, technology, trees, pool and hand management. I love games that have asymmetrical powers, asymmetrical civilizations. This one sounds like it's going to be a good one. It is Imperium Classics.
So Andy, I know you like deck builder games. So there's a new one that's out. It's called Familiar Tales. It's a 1 to 4 player game, plays in 45 minutes to 2 hours. Designed by Jerry Hawthorne, released through Plaid Hat Games. Familiar Tales is a cooperative deck-building fantasy adventure game. An exciting narrative game in which players take on the roles of wizards, familiars. Entrusted with saving and raising a displaced princess, they must keep her safe from the evil forces that would see her dead. The familiars know that every choice they make will affect the young one in their care. Players will explore a massive world through pages of fantastic storybook-filled adventures, which is something I really like. Ryan Lockett does an amazing job with his story adventures. Above and Below, Near and Far, Sleeping Gods have all been excellent games, and he does a phenomenal job with his storytelling. When these games are done, and they're done well with the story that is fleshed out very well, phenomenal games for me. So it's something that I'm looking forward to giving a try.
I really like that theme. It's interesting. Players are taking on the roles of not wizards, but the familiars. Just kind of a twist on what a lot of games are, where you're playing just a
always
different
the hero
role, right?
or whatever.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of neat. Going along with the narrative-driven games, a lot of these are getting to where there's applications that will narrate for you. So you get with like the Foreteller app like we've talked about in the past. I've really enjoyed that Foreteller app. In fact, recently received the Kickstarter Bard Sung. Before I even received my game, they kicked over links to get the free content on Foreteller that has all the narration on it for the narrative aspect of that game. I love that games are doing that now. And I like the story-driven narration stuff, but adding that extra where you have the voice actors to it makes it so much better and so much more enjoyable to play those games when you have that extra content.
What was that pirate one that...
Forgotten Waters.
Forgotten Waters.
Yeah,
So,
the
ever
voice
since-
acting in that was phenomenal.
Honestly, that's the first game that made me realize the impact having good voice actors can make on a game. It was Forgotten Waters because the voice acting was so incredible in it. More games can do that. It really fleshes out the game. It makes it more immersive. For me, anyway, it raises the enjoyability level substantially.
Completely agree.
Star Scrappers Orbital. This is a new game by Jacob Frixelius. He's the designer of Terraforming Mars. I imagine it probably has a lot of people excited. This is a game that, if you look at Board Game Geek, it actually has a weight rating of less than 2.
No kidding.
So it looks like it's supposed to be very simple. It's based on another game that he made. Space Station was a card game. This one is mostly a card game too. It's a hand management, pattern building, and worker placement game. Those are the mechanics that it lists on Board Game Geek. But this one seems pretty cool. As I said, it's based on his Space Station card game, but it's been mechanically streamlined, updated, and rethemed to fit the Star Scrappers universe, which is a space western setting created and developed by Hexy Studio. I love the space western. Ever since I saw Firefly and Serenity, I just have loved that theme in general, whether it's a game or a TV show. I think it's because I love that show so much. I just love that theme. Everybody starts out with their space station module on the table, and then over 5 rounds, which are 5 years, you expand your space station by playing new modules, which are cards. You start with a 5-card hand. You have crew and you have money. You're building your space station. You're going to get points based on types of modules that you have, and whoever has the most of each type of module is going to score a point at the end of the 5th year. It looks like it's a very simple game. It looks pretty cool. Plays in 30 to 90 minutes. It is a game for 1 to 5.
All right, you sold me. I'm interested. Because you started talking Space Western and Firefly, and I was, yep.
You know, Dave, I tend to diss on Terraforming Mars. Did play Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, and I loved it. I thought it was great. It's not anything against the game designer or any of his designs. I really thought that was a solid game and really enjoyed playing it. I have a few issues with Terraforming Mars.
Is it issues with the game or the players?
A little bit of both. People that have played it a lot, I think, are at a huge advantage, and I tend to pass early, and everybody else tends to go on for about an hour. Whereas with Ares Expedition, you don't get that, because they don't have all the blue cards that add extra actions and everything else. My biggest complaint about it was fixed with Ares Expedition.
All right, so we're almost out of time here, but I want to talk about one more game. There's been a lot of games, these card crafting games. Even games like Canvas, you have the layered transparent cards that you can stack on top of each other to complete an artwork, upgrade your cards, Mystic Veil and Edge of Darkness, and now in Dead Reckoning. But there's a simple game. Players are going to use transparent cards, allowing a character's story and score to evolve as cards are stacked upon them. Only the information that is currently visible counts. Modifier cards tell a terrible happenstance, give characters negative points. This game is gloomier, A Night at Hemlock Hall. There's been a murder, but this isn't a story about dashing detectives. It's the tale of the unfortunate victims. Tell the most tragic tale while keeping your opponents healthy and alive. So you're trying to keep your opponents alive and complete your story so that you can tell your grim fate. It's a simple little small game. Looking forward to pulling that off the shelf and giving that a try. I think you guys will like it. It's a 2 to 5 player game. Plays in under an hour. We'll have to give that a shot.
Sounds awesome.
Thanks for joining us for our June 2022 news. Until next time,
we'll see you at the game table.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
follow us on Twitter at Meeple Nation. We also have Instagram
under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and there's so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Brain Detergent for our music.
And links to those blog posters as well. Links to the link. We'd also love to welcome Doug Stewart as our most recent Patreon.
Thanks, Doug. You're the man.
Sorry, patron, not Patreon. Sorry. I don't know if you noticed that. My brain was stuck on that.
We'd like to welcome Doug Stewart as our latest Patreon. Patreon.
Patron?
I have been playing a game of Feast
A Feast for Odin.
A Feast for Odin online, and
Your people stand ready. History beacons. History beckons. Good heavens.
History beacons.